Without further ado, I want to bring up our next honoree, and he's known for his visionary leadership, his close relationship to the community, and the innovative ways he has managed to make California the most registered organ and tissue donor state in the country. I'd like to invite Dr. Prasad Garamella, CEO of One Legacy, to the stage to introduce our 2022 Visionary Leadership Honoree.
Thank you.
Please come in.
But we're here for a reason, and I actually am very happy, and maybe too loud here. I'm a physician and a surgeon, and I met Tom Mone. He was the CEO of One Legacy for 22 years. I met him in 2000 in an OR when I was procuring a heart at Northridge Hospital. And I again met him in 2004. And the thing I took away from Tom is truly a visionary leader. And we talk about visionary leaders and we make comments and we use that very loosely. But I'd like to give you an example, and I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about why he's a visionary leader. Since I've known him from the outside until I worked for him in 2007, he's put in systems in organ transplantation that revolutionized the industry, starting with the very first electronic offer. He won't talk about this, but I wanted to make a note of this. He made the very first electronic offer in 2001, and it was subsequently adopted by UNOS, which is now the standard of practice. And after that, he instituted the very first nucleic acid testing. For those of you who don't know, it shrinks the window of looking at diseases like hepatitis C, B, and HIV in a 7-day window to see if the person acquired that infection in that short period of time. No OPO, no one was doing this in the country. And One Legacy adopted that practice and made that a mainstay. It is now a standard of practice. And he introduced intensivist medicine or physician-based practice into the OPO world, which has never been around. Now it has become a standard of practice. And I truly believe that is what is a visionary leadership. But what drew me to him when he recruited me in 2007 to One Legacy was the fact that I've seen him do these things, and I wanted to work for someone who truly was a visionary. And when I came on board, I was so excited because his vision, I was the executioner. And I enjoyed doing that because I truly believed everything he's said has come to fruition. And I wanted to be that individual who brought his vision to reality. And since then, we have increased our donation 200 to 300%. We have increased transplantation from 700 transplants here in Southern California to well over 1,700. That is an amazing feat in an area with a very multicultural, diverse population. First generation, including myself, who have trepidations about donation. We walk into hospitals fearful that all they want to do is get our organs. Truth be told, that's what we think when we come from places like India, that they wanted to put us in a bathtub and put ice and cut over it and take our kidneys. And to change that thought process takes a lot of innovation. And Tom Mone brought that innovation to One Legacy in the US. It's the first OPO under his leadership that became specialized in various specific activities within our organization, and across the country it's been adopted. So I have to say I'm very proud for working for him. I'd like to say he now works for me. He is the Chief External Affairs Officer. I told him, be gentle. I know what I've done to him. So he said he will return the favor. And I said, please be very gentle. But I'd like to play a video of why we love Tom and enjoy working with him.
I've been here at One Legacy for 22 years. After a 17, 18-year career as hospital administrator, I made it a point to build One Legacy's team from the original 40 people we had to about 350 today by always striving to have the best and the brightest. A number of years back, I identified a gentleman, actually very early in my career, when I went to my first organ donor case 22 years ago, who worked with one of the local tissue banks. And I told myself, I'm going to keep an eye on this guy because I think he has real talent.
I met Tom while I was procuring a heart for a heart for valve transplant, and he was actually in the OR, and I went to introduce myself to him, and he said that he just became the CEO of One Legacy.
And 5 years later, I hired him to run our tissue recovery program, and we had started that, and we're adding tissue recovery to our organ recovery program. And I hired Prasad Garamella to run that tissue program. And I think 2 or 3 years later, I needed a chief operating officer. And I invited Prasad, who, while he worked in the tissue recovery area, was actually a general surgeon, trained as a general surgeon, but had worked primarily in tissue recovery, to join me on the organ side of our work and be the chief operating officer for all of One Legacy. And we've worked side by side now for 15 plus years to improve One Legacy, and the performance improvement we've done over this past 15 years has been a partnership. Our partnership as leaders, but also our partnership with community. One Legacy is actually the creation of what were 2 organ procurement organizations here in the greater Los Angeles, Southern California region. It was clear that there would be greater performance if they came together, and in '99 they merged and created what has become One Legacy. One Legacy is now the largest organ procurement organization in the U.S., serving over 20 million people here in Southern California. For instance, the average organ procurement organization in the country serves about 5 million people. So you can see it's a wholly different scale. And we now have 57 organ procurement organizations that work very closely together, but are all independent, serving different regions of the country. So a lot of development over a number of years, but it's enabled a dramatic, record-setting growth in organ donation and transplantation.
We're a leading organization in transplantation. We've wiped out the lung list in multiple centers. Lung transplantation has unbelievably been reduced from 250 recipients on the wait list. We're down to 60 in Southern California. Those are visionary leadership from Tom that empowered us to be able to look beyond what organ procurement organizations do, think outside the box, don't do what others do, let's be pioneers. He was the first to develop and implement NAT testing, nucleic acid testing, that became a standard of practice in the country. He was the very first to embrace technology back in 2001, created the very first electronic offer system. We now have our own internal software company, and we now have 6 clients. All that started with him and wanting to say, we have the intellectual property, we have the knowledge, let's go ahead and offer that out to people so that they see the benefit and share our success.
One Legacy's growth over these past 2 decades has been driven primarily by innovation and investment. The investment part was pretty straightforward. We needed to have more One Legacy staff in hospitals to meet with doctors, hospitals, administrators, nurses, to make sure they were recognized every opportunity for donation, made the referral on a timely basis. But we also had to invest in technology. The ability to communicate across all of these hospitals and with all the transplant centers. Outreach to our communities is essential. We have the most diverse population of any region in the country, if not the world. We have a population that 70% are persons of color, 50% are first or second generation immigrants. But media and events are a great way to draw people in, to get their attention, especially when they're positive and constructive activities, and like the Donate Life Rose Parade float, where it's a celebration of life. And we're having donor families and recipients and living donors honored. We have the Donate Life Run Walk, which brings together donor families and recipients that from across the region. And it's an opportunity to share their message with the world, and we get lots of media involvement there. We also have a program that really strives to get not just Southern California, but the world. But because of where we live, we started Donate Life Hollywood, a program designed to connect with Hollywood writers, directors, and producers, to get them story right, to no longer run stories of the myths that the doctor won't try to save your life because the doctor is a transplant surgeon. Well, they're not. They're there to save your life. Transplant is entirely separate. We need to get rid of those myths. So we have programs like those to reach out to the broader public at the highest levels. In addition to our sort of large-scale media-based and event-based outreach to our communities, we also have a lot of grassroots programs. We have a regular group of ambassadors and embajadores who set up tables at the consulates, the Mexican consulate, the Guatemalan consulate, and so forth, to help families who are new to this country, who are waiting in line, like we all do at these types of agencies, learn about donation. And they're going to be asked the question, do you want to be a donor when they go to the DMV and get their license? And it's a chance to share with them, by donor families and recipients, the good that comes from this, and the great connection with the Latino immigrant community in particular there. We have programs working with Buddhist communities, the Tzuchi Buddhist community, who operate clinics throughout the region. For the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we have set new records here at One Legacy in organ donation. Last year, in 2021, we recovered organs from 591 donors, enabled 1,688 organ transplants, another 1,500 plus tissue donors as well, corneas, skin, bone, and the like, for healing transplants. So some significant growth in the volume of these, more than doubling the number of lives saved each year. We sit, with our peers around the country, as the U.S. is the largest transplant nation in the world, highest transplant rate in the world. For the last decade, we've increased organ donation across the country by over 50%, but our work is far from done.
One thing Tom taught all of us, and I was not like this, is have fun. The business we do and the nature of the work we do is death and dying. And if you take that too seriously, it can weigh on you and you could potentially lose good people. So he's always taught us to have fun. And he'll make light of things. He'll come walk around. One of the best things about Tom, he walks around and talks to everybody. So you feel like there's a sense of peacefulness and comfort knowing that he's there even during the worst time when we're not doing well. He's there to say it's going to be okay. And I think that's a rare trait to find in someone. One of the things as a leader, he empowers people. And where I felt strong to be able to accomplish things is that he empowered me and he encouraged me that my ideas were good ideas. I've not always had good ideas, and I've had failures as well. But he's never made my failures feel like failures. He's always made my failures feel like these are opportunities. And that's the one thing I would have to say. Tom is an impressionable person, that he's always lifting people up. I've never in my 22 years of knowing him seen him bring anybody down. And that's an exceptional quality in a leader. And that's why I followed him for 22 years. I
went to our board 5 years ago and said, we're going to have to think about succession planning, and any good board likes to think about that. And I made the recommendation at that time 5 years ago that Prasad, whom I'd first met 22 years ago and recruited 15 or so years ago, would be my successor. And I was very pleased when 3 months ago we made that happen exactly as we predicted we would. And it's been ideal because we've been a partnership all the way along. And I think, and I hope that it's a role model to organizations to develop your leadership. I'm personally quite happy with my new situation where I get to spend more of my time working with this community, which is some of the most important work we'll do, is to help people understand the value that comes from their decision to give the gift of life. I can't think of a better way to spend 22 years helping people, getting the gratitude and the compassion and the caring that come from that I receive back from donor families, from recipients and the like, and just knowing that your work makes a difference every day. I think Tom truly deserves this Excellence in Leadership Award because he has been a visionary leader. He transformed organ, eye, and tissue transplantation in Southern California over the last 22 years. And we have helped thousands, hundreds of thousands of recipients, and that could not have been possible without his leadership. And I'd like to thank the Liver Foundation for recognizing Tom in our community for being an exceptional leader. A disclaimer, I was paid a lot of money by the Liver Foundation to say that. Please join me in welcoming my friend, my colleague, my mentor, and more importantly, a grandfather who he's most proud of. That's the role he lives in right now, Tom Mone. So thank you all very, very much. And the smile on my face is not due to the accolades said there. It really is due to the grandson, Griffith. Thank you very much for coming, Griffith. I will keep it very short. It's been too long up there. I would like to first thank my family. Thank you very much for shouting out, Griffith. I appreciate it. My wife, Gloria, my son, Trevor, my daughter-in-law, Crystal, and my grandson, Griffith, for joining me, but mostly for putting up with me over this career and certainly this last 22 years when the cause sometimes drew me away and draws me away from family and events and activities. That said, one of my visions, because I think the visionary argument was made pretty well, one of my visions is that by promoting Prasad, I'm really giving myself free time to be with them. And I'm counting on fulfilling that. But I want to thank you all for that. And Prasad shared a very personal and poignant story about the donation that was made by your colleague, everyone's colleague here at Cedars-Sinai. And I have one of those moments, personal family crossovers. Less than a year ago, about 10 months ago, I had a brother-in-law who lives in Florida who was suffering liver failure and desperately needed a transplant. And in the end of the day, he received one of probably the very first very actively positive, intentional COVID-positive liver transplants. I think at Shands in Gainesville. And I was actually at dinner for totally random reasons in Washington, D.C. with my colleagues from Gainesville, and we realized this serendipity was happening of the simultaneous event. And we had a text conversation with the surgeon as he went into surgery. When we finished our dinner, we got a text from the surgeon that the surgery was successful. And that was 9 o'clock at night. At 9 in the morning, I get a phone call from my brother-in-law saying, "Hey, how you doing? I feel great." Well, anybody who's worked in liver transplant knows that's not the standard story. But it was the story of someone who said, I'm going to take a risk, I'll take a high-risk organ, I'll get my transplant sooner, and had a team of professionals, transplant surgeons, transplant hepatologists, nurses, the entire team who said, we're going to make this work. And, of course, he got this COVID-positive liver and never had any consequences from that. Was obviously quite functional 12 hours later. And 4 days later, he came home and carved the Thanksgiving turkey. So for that, I would like to thank everybody who has been advancing the liver transplant field for the personal benefits that have come back to us. And congratulations and thank you to all of you who help heal and save lives through treating liver disease and liver transplantation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mone, for your dedication and years of service and commitment to the community.